r/AskReddit. Women of Reddit, what do you think would be the worst thing about being a man? Oh, you got stuck taking care of the kids today, huh? Giving mom a day off, finally? Dads know what I'm talking about. Edit, well, that blew up. Glad to see I'm not crazy. It's interesting to see the scattered few people say OMG people don't actually talk like that. And then see hundreds of other folks confirm that, yeah, people do say that shit. I was a stay-at-home dad until my daughter went to kindergarten. This hit me deep in the soul. I've been accused of being a child predator while reading a book on a park bench while my daughter plays. Have had the cops called on me when my daughter and I were just walking down the street 2 blocks from my own home, and have been generally looked down on even by family members while I was a stay-at-home parent. The giving mom a day off line is just emotionally crushing sometimes when it's said. Edit, thank you for the platinum. Thank you all very much for the kind words and the discussions had about this. Edit 2, thank you for the silver and gold as well. You spoil me. My daughter is 7 now, and things like these haven't happened in quite a while. We actually just had a wonderful trip to the grocery store today. You all are wonderful people, and I thank you for the kind words. My wife literally came home one night and told me she was leaving for another man, took my money, and filed for divorce. She also took and kept the dog. I was allowed 1 day off from work to deal with it. Our court date. If I even slightly mentioned it, people would go silent. And it's 6 months later and everyone expects me to be completely over it. It's torture. Edit, I really didn't expect this to get so much attention. I broke down and cried last night when I saw how many people messaged me and offered to give me their numbers or to be a shoulder to lean on. I saw some folks ask a few questions, so I figured I'd give some more details. I was a primary breadwinner, and for the last 2 years I had started making significantly more money than I had been before. In a pretty short amount of time I'd gone from $40k/E to $110k/E. When we first met, I had a drug problem. I cleaned up, worked for a while in the industry I had been in, then got into the software industry. She controlled the finances. Having a large sum of cash available to me, while not anymore, can be triggering, and I trusted her, and frankly didn't care. I would usually have a few $100 and she'd have the rest, which she assured me she claimed she had been saving. When she left, she didn't talk to me until I saw her in court, where she said she had $400 to her name. I was so beaten down at that point and just wanted my dog back, or the chance to see the dog. I didn't care about the money. I left court with none of the above. I live in a no-fault state, so we just had to go to court once. When the mediator asked if I wanted her to ask the judge about a hearing for the dog, I said yes. My ex then told me she was going to let my work know I'd been emailing her, begging her to come home from my work email / during my workday, implying she'd be attempting to get me fired, and had no issue doing it. It feels good knowing other people care. Thanks. I was fishing at a park today, and some 8-year-old kid who was alone came up to me and showed me that he broke his line off in the water. He didn't have any extra tackle, so I gave him a new jig and hook, tied it on for him and everything. It was the cheapest reel and line I've ever seen, so his folks must have just picked it up at Walmart and said, "Here, go fish." He wanted to fish with me after that. I didn't want to tell him to get lost because he was looking up to me at that point, so I said, "Sure, if you want to." The entire time I was having a mini panic attack waiting for the kid's parents to show up and kick my ass or something. The kid was super sweet and kept trying to impress me by telling me all the huge fish he caught. Eventually he went away and his folks showed up, and as I was leaving he pretended not to know me and quickly gave me a stealthy wave. I shouldn't be afraid to help a kid out like that. I feel you, man. My wife was walking around Target one day, that's her favorite place, and I was watching our little boy. He was on the aisle with cars and boy things. I stood next to him and would follow him as he moved down the aisle. Multiple people gawked at me, slowed down, gave me dirty looks. I have an olive complexion and dark hair, Italian heritage, and my wife is pale and Irish with blonde hair. Our son has a mix of both, and when you look at our eyes, shape or face it's easy to see he's my son. But at a glance he definitely doesn't look like he's mine. Although he's 3 shades lighter than me and 5 darker than his mother. It's awful to feel like a criminal, because I'm with my son. I've ripped into more than one woman trying to stick her nose where it doesn't belong. I have a baby girl on the way and I know it's going to be worse. I think I'll print a shirt with her face on it that says, "Fuck you, this is my daughter." Edit. Blown away by the support. Sad other parents have had similar issues. But I've definitely laughed at some of the comments. Lol. I was at my local dog park once, and one of my high school senior students was there with her mom and her dog. My student recognized me and came up to say hello. I was wearing shorts, a baseball cap, sunglasses and a Black Sabbath t-shirt. Anyway, this girl's mom was on a park bench about 50 feet away, and my student and I start chatting, like, so what college are you going to, etc. I crack a few dad jokes and she's laughing, and I look up and see her mom staring at me, and she gets up and walks over really fast with a strange look on her face. Her mom gets to us and she says, "Hey honey, who is this?" in that classic, concerned yet polite mom voice. The kid says, "Oh, this is Mr. Superfudge 73, my app environmental science teacher." Immediately her mom relaxes and smiles and says, "Oh, my daughter loves your class so much. So nice up, finally meet you." But for 10 seconds she was like, "Who is this creep talking to my daughter?" Kind of weird but understandable. When I was in high school, my dad got remarried to a woman with a ton of emotional baggage. She was verbally abusive and would start fights with anyone who would take the bait. They got in an argument one night and she started to shove him. He put his hands in his jacket pocket so that there could be no confusion of him hitting her. When he refused to engage, she told him she would kill his kids in their sleep. He called the cops. They came, listened to the story, and my dad went to jail. She was alone in the house with all of my siblings. I was out of town that night. My dad is a big teddy bear. I've never seen him in trouble with the law until that night. I got him out of jail the next day and then worked with him to send my younger siblings to live with my mom in Utah, and I got an apartment with my next youngest brother. He had a criminal record for having his and his children's lives threatened. That was really fucked up. Edit. Wow. I head out to karaoke for the night and come home to find a huge response on Reddit. Thanks for all of the kind words, guys. We are all much better off today. This was 16 years ago, so we've had a lot of time to grow and move on. My dad is doing very well for himself and has been remarried 14 very fulfilling years. I said this in another comment below, but if you asked him today, he would probably tell you his life has never been better. We're all doing very well today. Imagine pretty much being invisible. You get your self-worth from how well you perform at work. Perform good and you're okay day to day. Start performing bad and you want to kill yourself because your only interaction with people now is negative. Nobody cares about you. Nobody messages you. And when someone calls they want something from you. Now I don't mind helping, but damn, call me up for a beer or some camping too sometime. The hardest part is when it only is family, your friends are gone. So you always answer for family because it's what you do, but it's always, "Hey man, how was your Memorial Day?" if even asked. "Hey, Kylie is moving this weekend to college and we'd like to try and get it done in one shot. Are you busy Saturday?" "Oh, you work." "Oh well, okay. Are you free Sunday?" "Cool, well can you come Sunday then? We'd love to see you. We miss you so much. You never come out and see us." And you agree because you don't go see them because they all get together on Saturdays while you work, so now you feel bad for working and you now lose your day off from being bossed around and unpaid by people who always invite you to shit that happens on Saturday, then make you feel bad about it. So now you're the asshole while all of this happens, while you're carrying the 1,200-pound Bowflex that hasn't been used in the family for 5 years up 5 flights of stairs. None of these people wished you happy birthday last year. Edit. Well, I live in Idaho. Seems like I have some friends that would like to drink beer and go camping. HMU. I'll bring meat and fire. Let's get drunk, then tomorrow on our way out pick up some trash left over at other camps, because we pack in pack out. The hardest thing I ever did was in a Dale Carnegie class at work. They asked us to dig deep for our last class speech and reveal something no one knew. Everyone went hard. Grown men crying. I told people I have worked close to for 5 years about living with depression and my hard time after my brother died. I cried like a child, and one of our executives gave me the most reassuring hug. The next Monday we went right back to being men as usual. Felt good though. Edit. Thanks for the silver kind stranger. If it brings attention to my message, let me add this. Depression and anxiety are a disease that wear down your will to fight back and wins only when you stop trying to overcome it. Don't let the disease beat you. Talk to others, even if that means calling a hotline. I myself sought medical attention, and it changed my life. I urge everyone to find what helps them, but you have to take that first step. I'm part of a men's group of nearly 200 guys now that's all about connecting with your hearts and emotions and becoming fully alive powerful men. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. We hug each other all the time. We separate into small groups and get as deep as we can, and we cry with each other a lot. I've always been an emotionally closed off guy, and this has increased my well-being and confidence 100 times over because now I don't have to hide anything. These are powerful men too. Some of them have done scary things. Several of them have gone through SEAL training. We let our emotions out with each other and with our loved ones so that we can be powerful and in control the rest of the time. I've never seen a healthier group of people, and I was drawn to them the moment I stepped into the room. Show some feeling, guys. Get vulnerable. It's good for you. Edit. Added second paragraph and a word. I fell in love with the girl who let me cry on her shoulder, who never made me feel afraid or upset about expressing myself or my emotions to her. The moment I remember most was when she hugged me and held me as I silently cried around other people after a particularly rough day. She just saw the tears starting and embraced me, and it felt like she was shielding me from the world. Edit. Since this exploded, I'm going to leave some advice for all of you struggling to express your emotions. I struggled with this a few years back too, and this is what I did to climb out of it. Start by looking at this is an emotion wheel. Only focus on the inside circle, 8 basic ones. Learn to recognize them in yourself, and just acknowledge them silently when you notice. Pat yourself on the back for noticing. If you have trouble even with this, read on. There is hope for you. Therapy to learn and recognize your own emotions is a great first step. Just being able to talk to someone, validate your feelings, and do it in a safe environment. Then comes finding the courage to express them to people in your everyday life. Even if it's just words, I'm feeling becomes a really useful thing to be able to say. This can only happen after recognizing and accepting the emotions, so work on steps 1 and 2 first. Eventually, you get to the point where you can really express your emotions in body language and words. It'll help you connect to others and recognize those feelings in others. You will feel fear each time you do it, and that's because of years of society telling you not to show emotions. That's fine. Work through it. Be courageous if you feel safe enough to. It was actually in the middle of this stage that I met said girl, and I remember the first night we had dinner. We were so open and honest, and it felt safe and caring. I could just feel this trust growing from both of us being gentle with one another. It was wonderful. I asked her out to brunch the next morning. Finally, you'll get to the point where you can express yourself emotionally without feeling the fear that you need to suppress it or people will look down on you. Rejoice because you've got a door and you can leave that cold dark place. This is when you will really start to connect with others through empathy and caring, emotional bonds, and little gestures of support. That's where I'm today, with an amazing group of friends, guys and girls that all support each other. Spread this to others. Give them hope, show them the way, be there for each other. People are dying out there because they are so afraid to feel that they are taking the whole world on their shoulders. pull each other out of that dark and cold place. 3. I remember being at my friend's funeral a few years back. My buddy was up on stage talking and was really choking up, but trying his hardest to power through it. I've never felt pain or empathy for another person like that, and all I wanted to do was run and hold him. This man was on stage talking about his best friend deciding to end his life and was asking himself how he couldn't have known something was wrong. I wanted to get out of that pew, run down the aisle and hug him, and tell him a million times that it wasn't his fault, that there was nothing he could have done. I wanted to cry with him to show him there's nothing wrong with it, that it's not only okay, but goddamn, it's fucking expected. I remember my body shuddering and my brand new girlfriend noticing and squeezing my hand while she put her other hand on my knee. I wanted to say thanks, but I'll be right back, and help my friend, really help him in probably the only way anyone could at that moment. But I didn't. I sat there, and I forced myself not to shudder again, because I couldn't stand that I had shown even that much emotion, especially in front of the girl, who had to look at me as her man. I had to watch my friend suffer alone on a stage, surrounded by a world where he already felt alone. The same world that made the man laying in the coffin feel so alone he killed himself. I watched that, and I did nothing. What a fucking tough guy I am. This speaks to me. As of lately I've been quietly crying on my train to and from work while listening to music. It's been so long. I should maybe do something about that. Edit. Since this comment has gotten so much attention, I feel the need to explain myself a bit more. I don't think that I'm in a dark place in my life right now, nor have I had to suffer abusive situations, such as /you/planned this. I hope you're well now. Granted, my parents' divorce was quite the mess from start to finish, and for the years it lasted. But that doesn't make me special. I think we all go through a little bit of that in our own manner. But I don't look back fondly on my ages 10 to 17. I have been repeatedly told for the last couple years, and throughout my life, TBH, to act or be a man about my problems and feelings. And I say couple years, because in that time a lot has changed for me in my life. I have gone through a lot of typical young adult type of stuff. And even though these changes have mostly been positive, at times I feel like left to my own devices when talking about stress and life in general. I've been crashing through life ever since I've had the luck to start college. Until now, it's been a non-stop marathon of stress, changes, leaving friends behind, and a constant asking myself if I'm doing the right thing. The only person who acknowledges how I feel in a normal manner is my mom. And even she at times has dismissed a couple things I've told her my teenage years. So having said that, I want to deeply thank all of your comments. I haven't had the time to read them all, but trust me, I will. And I also want to thank the people whose knee-jerk reaction was to ask me to chat. I have to go to work now, but I might take you guys up on the offer. Cheers to you all. You're too kind. Take care. PS. I know that my edit is enormous. People are weirdly suspicious of men in general. My dad had to rush my grandma to the ER once. He was helping her move into a new house when she dropped a large mirror and cut the hell out of her hands and forearms. They stopped short of accusing him of causing the injuries to his face, but the dirty looks they gave him said plenty. The social worker was also pretty positive that he did it from the get-go too. And when my mom showed up, she had been at work. They asked her, insisted really, if she was also being abused. No charges or anything, lack of evidence, that no one said anything supporting their theory, etc. But it bugs me that they'd create a situation where men might be hesitant to take someone to the ER for necessary treatment. Even if they are guilty as hell, I don't see how you're doing the victims any favors by convincing abusers that they shouldn't get those injuries treated. Edit. For clarification, I don't take issue with them asking my grandma if he caused the injuries. Obviously, abuse happens and we want that lifeline there for victims. What bothered me was that they made their suspicion and hostility so open and insistent. I know victims frequently deny being abused, but that really doesn't seem like a good reason. to key up the situation like they did, or asking my mom when she had no injuries at all. Having said that, this was probably 20 years ago, so I'd bet money there have been changes to both policy and training since then. Edit 2. Since this is a point that keeps coming up, I really don't want to give the false impression that I care more about innocent men being inconvenienced than I do the safety of domestic abuse victims, because that's not true. I just think that it happens. Being openly suspicious is both unnecessary and ineffective. Edit. I do not mean to give the impression that I don't love my job or that I'm complaining. I only hope to educate people who may not know what my unique experience is like. As a male teacher at an all-girls school, we are explicitly told to be aware that it is not a situation, or if an accusation is made, but when we are walked through and prepared, we role play it out with administration and the student liaison office and the counselor, etc. Here are some of our rules that are put in place to prevent issues, but that the student body is mostly unaware of. A male teacher must not comfort a crying student in any physical manner. Lower himself to eye level when speaking to a student if an item is dropped. A male teacher mustn't bend down to retrieve it, but may ask a student to do so instead. Correct a student on the details of her uniform, shirt askew or untucked, inappropriate lay of the skirt, but should bring it to the attention of a female co-worker post return polite chatter from the student's teacher. Your new necktie looks nice. Silence or a nod. No thank you or so does yours. Haha. Organize an activity that involves repeated sitting, standing, jumping, running, or stretching. Refuse a student restroom privileges for any reason. The girls abuse this one a lot, but I understand its function. Give the student any item as a token of performance or encouragement. Accept any item from a student comment positively or negatively on a student's appearance, even if the student has prompted the interaction. Make positive comment on a single student's work or performance anywhere a female teacher isn't present to verify the transaction's nature. So no. Good job on improving your math scores, sissy. In front of the class when handing out papers, etc. Pass a student on a staircase. A male teacher must iron our trousers in a certain way, triple pleat across the thighs, such that it adequately hides any shape of our masculinity when viewed head on or from the side, or when sitting, standing, or rising. Cross the hall when passing a restroom door, such that we do not pass in front of the walkway in front of the restroom door, but pass from the opposite side of the hall. Sit only behind a teacher's desk, never on a regular chair. When students are present, be well groomed and well dressed at all points of the school day. Avoid smoking or consuming foods during the school day that would make their breath offensive. Carry his materials in a basket rather than in his front pockets, to avoid needing to pocket check for items around students. I am sure there are more, but these are most of the interesting ones. I work at an atypical upper class young ladies finishing school in a foreign country, so a lot of these make sense, I guess. But it still makes you feel like human trash and a waste of a person. Oh, and the all-female student body hates your classes because you can't relax and be relaxed around them, or mail the class fun, or be laughing and endearing towards them like all of their female teachers can. I also understand that this isn't a space for me, so I don't feel better or anything. I've really enjoyed my work with these young ladies, and it has opened my eyes to a lot. Yeah, and the worst part of that in my mind is that I only care about being man enough insofar as how other people perceive me. Inherently, I'm secure in being a man. I have nothing to prove to myself on that front. But when it comes to making friends or being interesting enough for a woman to date, that's where I get insecure about being enough of a man. It's when women mention what makes a man attractive, be it personality, looks, the whole gamut, and I know I'm not those things. That's when it hits me. There just isn't someone who would find any, if my trait's interesting. Any positive traits I do have are things a woman could just as easily get from someone better. It's not even a matter of sex. Being a virgin does not bother me innately, and it's what I'm supposed to be in my morals. but I only get insecure that people might find out and think there is something wrong with me, then exclude me. I really just want to be man enough to belong with people and experience love and friendship. This happened to me in my first year in college. I was with a girl, and she was a total pain. She was incredibly hot. Think of a shorter Black Widow, but she was one of those I'm brutally honest, and I'm proud of it people, which is just code for I'm an asshole, and I was sick of it. We had a fight, and she said if I was really that upset over a cartoon, that I could just lose her number. I replied with alright, and that was it. The thing is, before I would totally break and give in, and apologize after I cooled off, I didn't this time. I thought it was time to draw a line in the sand. She texted me back a while later saying I'm still waiting for an apology. I went to sleep and woke up to a barrage of texts. Don't remember all of them, but the last one said, look, we are both adults. Can't we just talk about this? She's the one that told me to lose her number. Edit. Some of you are asking me what the cartoon fight was about, so I figured I'd just write it here. Bit of context, I had recently injured my spine. I could no longer do sports or any of the activities I loved, so I was really depressed. It just wasn't a great time for me to go from active, running 5 miles a day to inactive, and struggling to hide the pain I had just from walking with shit. So, I watched Dragon Ball to cheer me up. It's always been my favorite show and a reason I learned martial arts. So when I was injured it served as the best possible pick-me-up when I was feeling down. She and I would hang out before class. We'd meet at the library. I'd show up early to do my HW, and when I was done I'd watch Dragon Ball to pass the time. Well, she eventually got tired of always seeing me watch Dragon Ball while I was waiting for her to arrive. I didn't make her watch it. I stopped watching when she got there so we could talk and hang out, and she started saying I needed to cut all that little kid shit, that I should be like X, a classmate of ours, because he was so mature, and that I needed to grow up and quit watching cartoons. She knew why I watched it and said, so what? Your dream's dead. Get over it. And that watching a cartoon isn't how adults dealt with shit. I told her it wasn't working out, stuffed my stuff into my backpack and headed out. Mature ending things with a girl that was way out of my league, seriously. I'm not even exaggerating. She's just not in my league at all. Over Dragon Ball? Maybe. But I was just not going to deal with that BS. Edit 2. So many replies. I'll get to all of them. Promise. Relationships. Getting a date with a woman. Finding a sew, or even just hooking up with a woman. It all seems like bullshit for men. Men are expected to initiate the conversation most of the time. And yet, I've known women who will accept dates with men they have zero interest in, just to get a free meal out of it. I've known women who want men to approach them, but if the man is unattractive to her she calls them creepy, or mocks them for it. Sure, not all women are like this, but you know what happens when I approach a man who isn't interested in me? He says no, thank you. I could easily get a one-night stand if I wanted to. Yeah. If people know about it, I might be called demeaning things or people trying to shame me for it. But I just think about a time a man approaches a woman in an elevator, gets turned down, and the next day there are news articles about how men shouldn't make women uncomfortable, and that conferences need to make an effort to make safe spaces for women. Men are shamed for their sexuality and no one gives a fuck. A man who is unhappy in a relationship because he doesn't get to have sex as often as he would like gets to hear how no one owes you sex. Up and down. He's seen as a piece of shit for even considering leaving the relationship for it. But if I'm unhappy in a relationship for any reason, people will happily back me or take my side, including if it is about sex. While there are people who will shame women and their sexuality, there are just as many people who will try to empower women for being sexual. Men. Nah, you're all pigs, potential rapists, creeps, and predators. The double standard with parenthood. This is going into the so route and relates to hookups. A woman gets pregnant and doesn't want to have a baby. She can get an abortion. She can give the child up for adoption. And in some states she can do the adoption route or even abandonment without the man's permission. And a woman who gets an abortion or adoption, well, her body, her choice. But what about the man? A woman gets pregnant and he doesn't want to have the baby. He's a deadbeat. If she keeps the baby, your money is tied to her and the child for years, and you're a deadbeat for even considering anything different. Not only that, but if a man doesn't want to support a kid, then don't have sex, is often said in discussions about this, even though the same fucking line is used against women by pro-lifers. It's a gross double standard and a dangerous one, making sex and relationships more tricky for men. It doesn't help that women have a huge variety of contraceptive options available to them, and men only have one that isn't permanent. Marriage is tricky for men, with how easy it is for a woman to leave marriage and claim a bunch of assets, sometimes get alimony, and take the children. Why are men risking marriage? Yes, not every marriage is so clear-cut, and sometimes the woman is making sacrifices herself which could make it difficult for her to get back onto her feet after a divorce. But come on. Women aren't helpless delicate flowers anymore. Women aren't solely reliant on their husbands and will be devastated after a divorce, at least not in the United States. And I acknowledge this as someone who is married to a man. Lack of support for those who end up in abusive relationships. Abuse can come from either sex. Men can be raped and abused too. But there are so few options out there for men who need help, in addition to people often saying or joking about how he probably deserved it, or that he's being weak. Since apparently I need to make it clear, yes, I'm female. I was born female. I'm not a trans woman, even though I have commented in trans subreddits. It's weird to me that some of you find it hard to believe that a woman could be behind this response, but hey, now you know why I assume I'm not. Though, having people assuming I'm a trans woman is a new one for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel.